I'm Quickstep the Green Knight at your service.
Hey guys, Sean Jump 24/7 here.
Yeah, today will be a bit of a small review, as many of us were a little bit too busy to stick around for the review, so it'll just be me and Sheldon for today.
So you want to introduce the anime?
Sorry, been getting used to Crimson doing it. So the anime movie we watched today is Fairy Tail the Dragon Cry, basically the second movie for the Fairy Tail anime. And it basically, you could call it the equivalent of what would be equivalent of a fairy tale arc. Basically, our favorite fairy tale characters, Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Urza, Happy, Charla, Wendy, basically Team Natsu, go on a quest to retrieve this mysterious artifact known as the Dragon Cry. And because at the point where this anime takes place, as this takes place after the second time skip, for those of you who follow the manga or have seen far enough in the anime. So basically a little bit past where the anime has stopped. Basically they go into the kingdom of Stella, where a character by the name of Zash, who is seen as our big bad for majority of the movie, has taken it and they have to get it back, and it ends up being an entire journey. That takes 85 minutes? Yeah. So, story. Why don't you start for this part?
Well, you basically just said the story.
Fair enough.
So
I guess then we'll go on to characters.
what are your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts. I thought this was a pretty fun movie. I mean, you get to see everything Fairy Tail is known for. Natsu getting into fights, Gray's habits, Urza being Urza, Dragon Slayers having seasickness or motion sickness, and honestly just everything you expect from a Fairy Tail movie. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I guess my initial thoughts is it is Fairy Tail, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Alright, so I guess that's all we can say for initial thoughts, so shall we move on to characters?
Go ahead.
Alright, well, if this is your first time watching Fairy Tail, you might not recognize some of these characters, but for regular Fairy Tail, yes, we all know how these characters are. Natsu, Lucy, Urza, Wendy. Although we do for some people who haven't read the manga, you do get to see some of these characters pull off tricks we haven't seen much in the anime. Like, Charlotte can now transform in what I noticed is a schoolgirl outfit, which I gotta admit is fitting for her character. Yeah. And we get to see Lucy's newest trick. And instead of just being able to summon her spirits, she can now, in something similar to what Urza does, get like dresses via them. Something we've seen briefly in the anime in the Tartarus arc, and I don't believe in the actual anime yet. After that, so let's move on to our villainous characters. Or would you prefer to say anything on the characters? Alright, so let's start with Sonia, one of the newest characters, who I think is honestly one of the more interesting characters that we see in the entire, partially just because how our main villain shows. She's first introduced with Jas, the dragon dude, Zas. And compared to her companion, she doesn't seem to be the monster he is, as she's first seen complaining how he killed these people who he didn't need to kill. But obviously, you see why she's not the bad character. She, despite working for the, she truly cares for this kingdom, Stella, which she worries about that is near apparently exploding because too much starlight. Now, let's talk about that. Yes, pretty much throughout the film, our villain. what to say about him. He's a monster whose power is almost broken, but unlike the solar flare, you can pretty much block by wearing sunglasses. Yeah, which you get to see a real awesome move by Lucy. But yeah, he basically has the power to control people with his eyes, by looking at them with his eyes. And honestly, he uses it he actually is really good when he uses it. Like, he actually terrifies it, making an entire army of guards attack each other, and nearly beats Fairy Tail. And this character, he does a lot of things that show he is a complete monster. Not only did he betray his own kingdom, Fiore, as he's originally from Fiore, basically the kingdom Fairy Tail takes place in, where Magnolia and all of our casts live. Tried to hold a coup. After that coup failed, he fled to Stella and killed all of his mercenaries that fought with him. Anything you want to add?
Can't really think of anything.
I can. He's one of the only people who Lucy has been able to seduce.
That's true.
Yep. And our last... Alright, how about we talk... Instead of moving on to the next villain, why don't we talk about Swan, Doll, and Gapri? Let's move on to these three. Basically, I would consider they're the mini boss squad our characters have to do. They're like the Ginyu Force in the Frieza arc, except they don't have hilarious Sentai stances. Sorry, I just had to do that right now. Yeah, honestly, each one of them shows a unique, I want to say, quirk and different style. I mean, we got Swan, who basically is a kick battler. Doll, who literally is Big Slow mixed with Armstrong.
Yeah, I can see that.
We weren't the only one. That's Delta, who unfortunately wasn't able to join in for this review, noted that that's just the same thing as Thing. Yeah, and Capri, who's basically, I wouldn't be surprised if he started saying, "You're too slow, you're too slow." Yeah, honestly, they're all taken out in ways that are rather interesting, with Urza's having slight shifties if you know who Grand Chariot's actual move, who actually uses Grand Chariot. Joel. Basically the person Urza gets the most shifties by the second half of Fairy Tail. Yeah. Doll, you get to see, is basically taken out between Gray and Juvia, and Gappy loses to a flying cat and Wendy. And you get to see one of Wendy's newer tricks that's shown pretty awesome. Yeah, there's not much to say about these guys. They're the quirky mini boss fight equivalent of what our characters have to go through. And now, the last new character we can really talk about, other than if we wanted to go into the Fairy Tail cast, Animus. You want to start on this one, or?
He's the, what was it, Stella, he's the king of, he's the quote-unquote king of Stella.
Yeah, King of Stella. We're saying that you find a little bit more about his character that we will not go into because it is highly spoiler. But yeah, he's the King of Stella, and he needs the Dragon Cry because it will help save Stella. And he seems to... There's some cool things with the story behind this movie that lead into massive foreshadowing if you pay attention to his behavior, so you really want to watch this character. But yeah, he's a good driving part, and you'll see more of his story in the climax, and we will not talk anymore about that for spoilers. But there is one more character I do want to talk about, because while he doesn't play a massive part in this movie, you do get to see a part of his story that in the Fairy Tail manga it does not really appear, and it shows one of the most, would be the most equivalent of a trailer lead up to when we get the next season of Fairy Tail. Archaeologia, the destroyer dragon, the most feared dragon, and it's when we've seen him in the anime, one of the most terrifying things for our Fairy Tail heroes. I won't tell you what part, but you want to keep an eye out for this character because you get to see part of his story that we don't see coming. Basically, shown what made this demon dragon into what he was. Especially, you get to see a form of him that we have not seen in the anime. Something nobody expected when he first appeared. And be watch out for two more characters who I won't go into details because their stories is for another tale, let's say. I'm sorry, that pun was not intended, despite my wording. But yeah, those two characters, when you see them, I am admittedly freaked, but keep your eye out for these characters. Okay, art. Why don't you start us off on this, Shonen?
Alright, well, it's fairy tale. Guys, can't really say that much, but I do I do have to say some of the parts did look good, like the when they were looking at the night sky, that was a good little bit, and yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say the art design definitely it's what you expect from Fairy Tail. It has it's well animated scenes, and definitely like the whole city of Stella does look like shining bright, and along with its stars, which is it's famous for, as Stella has these metals or rocks that are famous for absorbing starlight. Honestly, I think that's all we can talk about the animation. I mean, it's the animation you expect from Fairy Tail. So let's move on to music. Well, I mean, you got the typical like Fairy Tail theme, which I loved hearing. And even the new music, I enjoyed it. I mean, the music, it's the typical music you expect from Fairy Tail. Anything you can throw in on that? Because I gotta admit, I don't pay that much attention to music, so I can't really say much.
Not much.
Best I could say is, yeah, the music you'd expect to hear from Fairy Tail, like its main theme that just makes any Fairy Tail fan smile. So let's move on to something negative. You want to start this one?
How about you start?
Not enough Levy. Honestly, I feel like out of all the characters who did anything, appeared in the movie, Levy doesn't do much.
Don't think any of the extra characters do much.
I mean, you at least got to see Gajiel and Lily and Panther Lily fighting.
Barely.
Yes, I'll admit, they didn't do much, but they at least, Gajiel and Levy had more scenes. Levy, she pretty much, did she say much after, when she got Gajiel to go on the job? Like, I think she said more, actually no, I don't think she said anything in Juvia's whole Juvia thoughts. Yeah. Honestly, the only other main negative I would say would be the whole Quattro servant things. While there's slight foreshadowing from them, they don't really do much. Like, they're just there. I mean, I feel like you could have just done possessed guardsmen again and they would have had the same effect. And we don't really get anything what this means to be 4th generation Dragon Slayers. Especially because they don't seem to be any different than 3rd generations, because 3rd generation Dragon Slayers are, as we know, like Rogue and Sting, who were taught by dragons but then had dragon lacrimas added in them. So, and the only difference what they have is what the Quattro servants weren't taught by dragons. So wouldn't that make them more equivalent to second gen Dragon Slayers like Cobra and Luxus?
Probably.
Again.
Or maybe it was that maybe it was the lacrima given life or something like that.
Again, I just meant they came out a little. They had slight foreshadowing, but not enough that I feel like they were just there to be there. To add one little more challenge for Fairy Tail. Alright, I guess, is there anything else we can talk about?
final thoughts?
I thought this was a very good fairy tale movie. I mean, it was an interesting story from the beginning when we wake up Natsu in a cell to the very end where we get something what almost seems like a trailer for a new season. I mean, what would you say?
Well, I would say, being how that this is the kind of the opposite end of the spectrum where you like fairy tale, I don't.
To each their own.
I say this is just an movie. It's okay, but it's just not really my thing.
That's fair. So I guess scoring, I'll give it 5 out of 5 Dragon Slayers.
And I'll give it 3 out of 5.
Alright, so that's 8 out of 10. Well, that's all for this. Unfortunately, we will not be watching an anime next week as most of our members will be out of town. So catch us in 2 weeks when we haven't figured out what anime we're watching, so you'll be in for a surprise. This is the MCTC Anime Club signing off.